Hi everyone. This video is on chapter 2 for Math 97, or it might be for Math 95. That goes along with the 107 course. So we have linear equations and inequalities. So depending on what you've done in the past, this may or may not be review. For most of you, it'll probably go pretty quickly. Do keep in mind, I tend to go slower in the videos, so it's perfectly okay and recommended. You might want to go 1.5 times faster. You can do that in YouTube. And also, feel free to slow it down or pause it more if you need to. What you will submit is, for the final thing, is the entire copy of your notebook pages, the workbook. So as you can see here, it's all blank. Some of them I will leave purposefully blank, but then I go back and write them in right in the video, so you'll be able to check your answers and your solutions. Sometimes I talk through it, sometimes I go really quick, or I just put what the steps, or sometimes even just the answer alone, so you can check. But always ask if you have any questions. If you're stuck on something right in the midst of a video, or it doesn't look right to you, if there's a mistake or something, just pause the video and you can email me. Hopefully I'll be paying attention a little bit to email even when I'm doing other things, but you can definitely get a pretty quick response between like probably 9 and 3, I think I put on the messages that I sent. So just let me know. So chapter 2, linear equations and inequalities. So we're going to start with just linear equations. A linear equation is an equation where the highest exponent on the given variable is 1. A linear equation of one variable is an equation with one variable with exponent 1. Okay, so here's an example: ax plus b equals c. Just for reference, I am on page, let's find that. It's 21 in the workbook. So if you're using that, you might want to, if you've just printed it all out at once, you might want to have that page reference, or you can just write in a notebook. So remember that we simplify expressions and we solve equations. So do pay attention. If it starts with an equals, then that means we're going to balance something out. If it doesn't have an equal sign, then we're just going to simplify it as if it was just one side of an equation. So we always start with verifying the solution. So we're going to plug in and see if our sides balance. So I'm going to show you how to do that in a way you may not have seen before. It's kind of like a little mini proof. So let's go to that on example 2.1. So the question asks, is x equals 5 a solution to 2x minus 3 equals 7? So we're going to take this 5, and anywhere we see an x, we're going to plug in the 5. This happens to only just have one spot. So we would go ahead and plug in the 5 using parentheses just to clarify that we're doing a plug-in. And then if there's any exponents involved, which there will be later, exponents other than 1, where we have to verify, and we want to be careful of our signs. So we would then write the rest of it: 2 times 5 minus 3 equals 7. And I always put like a little question mark above there because I don't know yet if it equals. I have to check it. I have to test it out. So I'm going to then calculate, just use my order of operations and crunch the numbers. And I get 10 minus 3. Does that equal 7? And yes, 7 does equal 7. So I'm good. So that is true. This is the proof, or the why, when I say on a quiz or a test to do this, to say, is it a solution? Show proof, show why. So oftentimes you'll have to say something like 7 equals 7, therefore these 3 little dots mean therefore 5 is in fact a solution to this, equation up here. Okay. Okay, now right below that one, we have example 2.2. Is x equals -2 a solution to 8 equals 3x plus 4? So I'm going to leave this one as a virtual classwork. So we'll mark that off as CW for classwork in quotes, or sometimes I might call them try it, try it on your own, then check back for your answer. So what I intend really here is for you to pause the video. So you're going to pause video and then do the classwork. I'm going to try it all on your own. And then when you're done, just quick check back and I'll have a solution with an answer there. So you don't necessarily need to do them as you go in the video, but before you submit, if you want to do it after, you're going to need to make sure you know what the answers are. This one happens to be no. So sometimes I tell you ahead what the answer is, but you have to show the work, okay? And you won't see that unless you look back at the video. So it's best just to get it all done right when you're fresh and going. I think is better. That's why I leave them in little pockets for you to do throughout the video. So once you just get into a rhythm, you'll get the gist. But when all is said and done, you're going to submit any examples of the notes that I write out, as well as any that I leave blank. Whether I give you the answers or not, everything should be put into the file, preferably one file, so we don't have a bunch of loose sheets or loose documents hanging around that don't get uploaded maybe. So if you can use an app for pictures, just condenses it all down to one thing. It's a lot easier, but if you can't do that, don't stress about it. It's okay, but maybe we can work on that if you're struggling. Okay, so here is the answer for example 2.2 that I left for classwork. I should say I do read through these really quickly. If you want to skim through faster, that's okay. Just because for visually impaired and blind students, they can't see this, so I want to make sure that I read it through. But if you don't need that talk through, just go on down to the next thing. You can just kind of drag the little piece. Carefully, don't go too far though. So this one, the answer is no. 8 does not equal, or x is not equal to -2 for this particular equation. So we have 8, does that equal 3 times -2 plus 4? 8, does it equal -6 plus 4? 8, does it equal -2? No, it's not true. So make sure you actually write your answer out like this and stating that it's not a solution, and then you'll be done with that. Okay, for the next problem, we're going to do one-step equations. The addition property here is that given an equation A equals B, we can always add the same thing to each side. So it's really add or subtract. As long as we stay balanced, we're good with that. Again, if you have never seen this before, you might want to consider taking Math 92 or getting together with me for more details on that. This is kind of assuming this is review for you guys. So I'm going quickly and not doing any manipulatives or anything like that. Example 2.3, we're going to solve by using the addition property. So we have A is x minus 5 equals 12. So we're going to add 5 to both sides. This is how I tend to write it. And I put a nice long line under if I use a line at all, just so it doesn't look like a division line. And then I usually show this way that those go to 0. -5 plus 5 is 0. So that leaves us with x equals 17. So I just perform the operation right there on the right hand side. So you can check back by plugging your answer in for x, and we can just do this one quickly in our head. 17 minus 5 is 12, so that is a solution. So I'm going to also do B and then leave C and D for you guys to do on your own and just put the answer, and I'll read off the answer, but not all the steps because those should be pretty quick. So this one here with the fractions, we have a plus 3/4 equals negative 1/2. If you haven't watched the fraction video, go ahead and check that out. I think that's in section 1.2. That was optional, but if it's been a while for fractions, you might want to check that out. So I'm going to subtract 3/4 from both sides. And I do need to get a common denominator there, so I'm going to write that out. So I'm left with a equals negative 1/2 minus 3/4, or plus negative 3/4 if you want to write it that way. And then I'm going to write it out as having a common denominator. A equals negative 2/4 minus 3/4. And my final answer would be A, I'll write it over here, A equals negative 5/4. And I'm going to center that negative right in the middle, like across from the fraction bar. And that is my answer. And you could check it back in, see if you're right by plugging it back in. And again, this one we can kind of do quickly in our heads and calculate. So C and D, I'm going to let you do those on your own. The answer for C should be y equals 9.7. Sometimes you'll have things that are so quick you can just not have to write out much steps, but other things you definitely should show your steps and will be required to. And for D, n equals negative 5. So make sure you can do those and get them correct. If you are struggling at all, just email me and we'll make sure you're on track. So pause the video and work on that, and then we'll go on to the next thing. Okay, so multiplication property of equations, same kind of thing as the addition subtraction one. We can multiply or divide, which is really just multiplying by the reciprocal, by just making sure we hit both sides, that we balance things off. Okay, so we are going to look at example 2.4 on page 23. Solve the equation by using the multiplication property. So this first one, we're going to divide both sides by negative 3, or we're really multiplying both sides by negative 1/3 in essence, but we can do this quickly that way. So we end up having a coefficient of 1. That's our goal. We want to force that coefficient to be 1x. We don't want negative 3x's, we want 1. So then we end up with x equals negative 4. And do make sure you reduce everything properly. Then you can just pop that back in, even in your head for these shorter ones, and make sure, just verify that that's correct. For B, we have a fraction here. So we have the negative we have to deal with. So I'm going to put this in parentheses. The negative t over 4 equals negative 3. I'm going to leave myself a little space, and I'm going to put that over 1. I can always do that if I want to, just for working with numbers. So then I want just 1t, not negative 1/4. So this is understood to be a 1 in here, right? So if I multiply by the reciprocal, which is going to be negative 4, then when I go ahead and I have to do that on both sides, when I go ahead and reduce that out, I end up getting negative 1 times negative 1t, so I'll just be left with t equals positive 12. And you can pop that in, make sure it's right. So on part C here, you can just multiply both sides by the reciprocal. And on D, multiply by 3. So go ahead and try that and then look back to see your answers in the video. Okay, so for C, this one C, usually just erase the number next to it so I can work on it more clearly for you. So we are multiplying by 3/2. A lot of stuff reduces out. Be careful when you're doing that, that you pay attention and don't lose track of any of the items. So for part D here, we just multiply both sides by 3. Do be careful when you're doing this that you're just multiplying the 3 to the numerator, not to the denominator also. So sometimes you just might want to put it over 1 just to clarify that and, you know, lose track of what you're doing. So you should get x equals 30. And again, just pop it back in. Make sure that you are on track for your answer. So we have a couple more pages to work on. We have two-step equations, and then we have more involved with fractions and stuff. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop this video. I'm going to try to keep them short for you so you can upload them easy, or if you have to download them temporarily into your device or phone to work offline. So this is part 1 of 2.1, and I'll get the other one made shortly, and you will make sure you watch both videos. So